he had sat from the plushy upholstered Vyasasana. But I simply try to satisfy my Guru. That's all. My Guru Maharaja asked me that if you get some money, you print books. So there was a private meeting talking. Some of my important godbrothers also were there. It was in Radhakunda. So Guru Maharaja was speaking to me that since we have got this Bagbaza marble temple, there has been so much dissension and everyone thinking who will occupy his room or that room. I wish therefore to sell this temple and the marble and print some books. Yes, so I took up this from his mouth that he is very fond of books. And he told me personally, if you get some money, print books. Therefore, I'm stressing on this point. Where is book? Where is book? So kindly help me. That's my request. Print as many books as possible in as many languages as possible and distribute throughout the whole world. Then the Krishna consciousness movement will automatically increase. The next morning, while walking on Venice Beach, Srila Prabhupada delivered an extraordinary ultimatum. Surrounded by devotees, he walked along, poking the sand softly with his cane. These 17 volumes, unpublished, he began, are a great problem for our movement. Yes, Prabhupada, Rameshwara responded. At- Attentive and concerned, the other devotees also nodded. Commiserating, something must be done. Yes, Prabhupada continued. They must be published immediately. Yes, Prabhupada, Rameshwara replied obediently. So I think they can be printed in 2 months, Prabhupada said conclusively. Rameshwara wasn't sure he had heard correctly. The press had only just opened. The artists didn't even have the lights in their room. 2 months was illogical, impossible. Now was the moment to tell Srila Prabhupada the plan for increased production. Rameshwara stepped closer. Srila Prabhupada, he began. We have been meeting about this. And now that the press is finally here and established, I think we can increase production 4 times. We think that now we can go from producing one book every 4 months to producing one of your books every month. Now, both Rameshwara and Radha Vallabha were walking together beside Srila Prabhupada, with the Tamala Krishna Goswami and Brahmananda Swami walking on his other side. On one book every month, Srila Prabhupada said, as if thinking out loud and considering it. That means over 1 year. It's not fast enough. The other devotees looked over at Rameshwara and Radha Vallabha, who glanced at each other. You have to do all the books in 2 months' time, Srila Prabhupada said again. They had clearly heard it this time, and the two managers were stunned in disbelief. Srila Prabhupada. Rameshwara said, I think that's impossible. Maybe we can go faster. Srila Prabhupada suddenly stopped walking, planting his cane firmly in the sand. He turned to Rameshwara and said, without anger, but very gravely, impossible is a word found in the Fool's Dictionary. Suddenly, Rameshwara realized his spiritual life was on the line. To say impossible now would mean he had no faith in Krishna's representative, no faith in the power of God. He must throw away his material estimations and rational common sense. While Rameshwara and Radha Vallabha stood speechless, Srila Prabhupada resumed walking, accompanied by others. Devotees hurried to catch up, but now everyone looked at them as if to say, come on, stop doubting, you have to do it. Rameshwara asked Srila Prabhupada if he could discuss this with the other devotees at the press and then report back. Oh, yes, Prabhupada replied, whatever is required. Rameshwara and Radha Vallabha dropped back while Srila Prabhupada and the others continued down the beach. Srila Prabhupada returned to the temple and toured the new press facilities, a graphic arts building and an editorial building. While walking outside on a second floor veranda, he noticed below a 2-foot strip of bare earth running between the two buildings. He seemed annoyed and said that they should plant grass there. In the layout room, a transparency of B. Krishna carrying Nanda Maharaja's shoes was on the light table, and Srila Prabhupada began laughing when he saw it. He approved of the new typesetting equipment, which worked faster than the previous equipment. And when the devotees demonstrated it for him, he remarked that in India he had dreamed of having such a press. In Radha Vallabha's office, Prabhupada sat in the production manager's chair and looked up at the large bulletin board that displayed all the steps in the production of a book. He laughed and said, for someone like me, this makes it even more complicated. Srila Prabhupada walked into every room in the two buildings and saw all the equipment. This modern technology was fine, he concluded, as long as they could use it to meet the deadline of 17 books in 2 months. Otherwise, their equipment was like the technology of the material scientists who tried to go to the moon, useless. All through the morning program in the temple, Rameshwara and Radha Vallabha tried to concentrate on chanting their japa and on Prabhupada's class, but they could think of was but all they could think was of arranging for the production of 17 volumes in 2 months. And by the time they met with the press workers, they had become convinced it could be done. It was as if some mystical power was going to descend. Somehow or other, it could be done. So they presented the plan and convinced the other workers. It can be done, Rameshwara said later, talking with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada replied. But there were some conditions, Rameshwara said. For the Bengali editing to go smoothly, the editors would have to be able to regularly consult Srila Prabhupada. Immediately, Prabhupada agreed, adding that he was prepared to stay in Los Angeles as long as necessary to ensure that they met the 2 month deadline. Another condition Rameshwara raised was that the artists would be working as quickly as humanly possible, but the painting might not be the best quality. A blind uncle is better than no uncle, Srila Prabhupada said. When Rameshwara mentioned that the artist would have many technical questions, Prabhupada agreed to make time to answer them. He also agreed that photographs of Indian holy places connected with the Chaitanya Leela could be used to supplement the paintings. After their meeting with Srila Prabhupada, Rameshwara and Radha Vallabha felt that they had a chance. They left Srila Prabhupada's room, running down the stairs. The marathon was on.
So here we see how Prabhupada clearly knew what he was talking about when he said the 17 books should be published in 2 months. And having faith in that instruction, the disciples figured out a way how it could be done. I'll just leave it at that for now because we'll come back to this later. What happened to this order, which was seemingly impossible, and what happened with it? Did they succeed? Did they fail? How did they succeed or how did they fail? We'll come back to that later. Sasur Maharaj will come back to that later. Meanwhile, Prabhupada continues our tour.
preaching to America. Although Srila Prabhupada had said he would stay in Los Angeles as he, he soon decided to follow his original travel plans. Feeling compelled to see to the welfare of his disciples around the country, he left on a tour of 13 ISKCON centers in the US and Canada. About half a dozen of his sannyasi disciples traveled with him. Then where? June 27, 1975. Srila Prabhupada was pleasantly surprised to see the brick church building that was now a Krishna temple. The temple hall was spacious, and afternoon sunshine streamed into the room. He beheld the small golden forms of Radha and Krishna on the altar and then walked to the rear of the hall, where he sat on the Vyasasana, allowing the devotees to bathe his feet. These devotees, unaccustomed to being with their spiritual master, were awkward in performing the standard formalities, but they were enthusiastic and happy. Sitting on the floor before Srila Prabhupada, Dasharatha began singing O Vaishnava Thakura, accompanying himself on the harmonium. Srila Prabhupada liked his singing and said, when the song was finished, asked, you know the meaning? The Sharatha replied, O Venerable Vaishnava, O ocean of mercy, please be merciful unto your servant. Another devotee said, I pray for the shade of your lotus feet. Yes, Prabhupada acknowledged, and he began to speak about the song's author, Narottam Das Thakur. He then quoted another song by Narottam Dasa, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Payeche Keba. This Krishna consciousness movement is for Nistara, he said. Nistara means to be liberated from the capture of Maya. When we hear songs by the Vaishnavas, that is called liberation. Although the devotees had Although the devotees had heard before of Narottam Das Thakura and of liberation, they listened especially attentively now. Here was the Vaishnava Thakura in person, come to teach them to control their passions, to impart to them the strength to carry out the Sankirtana movement, and to bless them as Narottama Das Thakur described with one drop of faith with which to attain the great treasure of the holy name. So I am very glad to see this temple, Srila Prabhupada said to the group of about 40 devotees. You have purchased it? That's nice. Very good space. And the devotees here are very nice. So our process is very simple, that we dedicate our life to the service of the Vaishnava, and according to his direction, we engage in Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting of Vishnu, and refrain from the sinful activities. Then life is successful. We do not require to be very learned or very rich man or to take birth in very high family. For driving Srila Prabhupada to the park, a friend of the Denver temple had lent his Lincoln Continental, formerly Richard Nixon's presidential limousine. Brahmananda Swami pointed out the car's luxurious features to Prabhupada, including bulletproof glass windows. So bullet is expected also? Prabhupada laughed. Brahmananda remembered that the world leaders were always in anxiety. Prabhupada agreed. In the material world, there was danger at every step. He began talking of Indian politics. Indira Gandhi and Jay Prakash Narayan in bitter disagreement. Both of them are in distressed position, Prabhupada said. I'm thinking of writing them on the basis of our Bhagavad Gita. Do you think it is advised? When Srila Prabhupada mentioned that Indira Gandhi occasionally went to see her guru, Anandamayi, Brahmananda remarked that her guru had commented favorably about the chanting of Hare Krishna. So what do you think? Prabhupada asked the sannyasis, Namala Krishna, Bhavananda and Satsvarupa. Shall I write? I have made a draft of a letter this night. So you come and see. Let us take a chance. We want good for everyone. And this is the only medicine, Hare Krishna, for all wrongs. Para dukkha dukhi, people are suffering. The devotees agreed the letters would be a good idea, although they doubted whether the politicians would take the advice or even read such letters. Prabhupada then asked about the public's response to Krishna consciousness in Denver. They get nice attendance on Sundays. Satswarupa answered, many people come. There is good hope, Prabhupada affirmed. Good book distribution here also. Prabhupada nodded. That is the most successful. Wherever book distribution is going on nicely, that is successful because people are in gross ignorance. They are taking this temporary life as everything. Very horrible condition. We are trying to explain what is the actual life. They arrived at the park, which was filled with the tall old pines, maples, and oaks. Getting out of the car, Prabhupada stood facing a pond. In the distance, he could see the Denver skyline and the Rocky Mountains. He could hear the quacking of ducks and geese from the pond. A second carload of devotees arrived, and Prabhupada and his followers began walking along a paved path beside the lake. Very nice park, Prabhupada remarked, and not far away. They soon came upon a large modern building, the Museum of Natural History. That means Darwin's theory. That's all, said Prabhupada. Their whole civilization is based on this Darwin's theory. How long you shall keep history? Do you know what is the history of the sun? When it was created, when it came into appearance? Can Darwin give us the history of the sun or the moon or the sky? Where is the history? There is history, but where is your history? You simply imagine there was a chunk and it became manifested as the sun, moon, and I am also this. What do you actually know? How has this cosmic manifestation come into existence? The sun rose with dazzling golden rays and quickly warmed the air. The devotees offered Prabhupada information about Denver, the mile high city. Excuse me, it was good for health, they said. Prabhupada said the climate was in Punjab, the up country in India. He also heard how Colorado was known as cow country because its main industry was slaughter. Prabhupada walked past a zoo and down a hill. He passed a Civil War cannon and saw many colorful flower beds, expansive lawns, and everywhere the tall pines. Although the air seemed chilly for July, the brightness of the rising sun was unusual, and the natural scenery of the park stood out sharply. Srila Prabhupada also appeared bathed in golden light as he walked briskly, wrapped in his grey chadar, talking from time to time with his disciples. Prabhupada mentioned Gopal Agarwal, the man at whose home he had first stayed after arriving in America in 1965. Gopal's father, he said, was a very rich man in Mathura, and Gopal had come to America to be an electrical engineer. He was not doing as well as he would have been by staying in India. Prabhupada said. Gopal's wife Sally used to say, my husband is a lost child of his parents. People are working so hard day and night for these temporary years, Prabhupada said. Although by laboring less than that, they can go back to Godhead just to get a nice car, a nice wife, and a few children by working so hard. And by the same labor, if he devotes himself to Krishna consciousness, then he goes back home, back to Godhead. And what is wrong there? We have got so many Krishna conscious devotees. What is wrong there compared to these ordinary karmis? Are you unhappy? What do you think? All their efforts will be finished, and after that, they will become a cat or a dog or a tree. Devotee. Sometimes, Srila Prabhupada, even if we explain this and the people seem to understand, still they won't do anything about it. Prabhupada. So you have to constantly poke them. Just like when a man is sleeping, you have to call him constantly. Mr. John, wake up. You rascal, why are you sleeping? You have got this opportunity of human form of life. Now get up, take to Krishna consciousness and solve all your problems. Devotee. Some people say that if we want to do this, it's all right, but we shouldn't preach and insist to them. Everyone has his own way. Srila Prabhupada, but you are a human being. You rascal, you are sleeping, and we are just trying to awaken you. Suppose a child was going off to one side where there is danger. We are human beings. So we shall say, no, no, go to the right. We shall try to save him. That is our business, to do good to others. That is the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Not that this man is going to hell, so let him go to hell, but at least I'm happy. That's not humane. Devotee. A lot of times, Srila Prabhupada, they feel we are just escaping material life. They say we don't have jobs and that we should work for a living. Prabhupada addressing an imaginary chal- challenger. You rascal, you have no money. You work, but we are rich men. We are Krishna's sons. So why shall I work like you, an ass? An ass will work unnecessarily. We are not asses. Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada said, establishes Lord Krishna as the proprietor of everything. The servants of Krishna, therefore, should not be expected to work hard like asses. Asses work hard, not human beings. This was also the instruction of Rishabhadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Rishabhadeva told his sons that human life is not meant for working hard simply for food and sex enjoyment. That was the business of hogs. Prabhupada. Tell them they are working like hogs and we are living like human beings. That is the difference. If somebody does not work hard like a hog, does that mean he is escaping? Srila Prabhupada continued to vigorously develop his theme. He argued very seriously and at a delightful way, showing the fortune of one who becomes a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotees could not refrain from smiling and laughing as they hurried to keep up with his pace and with his Krishna conscious logic.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Mata. Can you, okay, just pause for a while. We notice here very distinctly how, as is always the case, Srila Prabhupada uses the word rascal uh, as an expression of his compassion. That's very clear and very obvious when we read these conversations, because when he says rascal, he's not saying it out of anger. He's saying how ridiculous it is that someone who has a human form of life is wasting that human form of life by doing things which the animals are doing. So he is interested in waking up these people and asking them to get on with the business of life, which is to attain God, to attain love of God. So Prabhupada's expression of the word rascal can clearly be seen here is out of his sense of compassion. And the preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement should remember that these expressions that Srila Prabhupada used are a manifestation of his compassion, a manifestation of his urgency, a manifestation of his how Prabhupada could perceive reality, that they're doing something very dangerous. Like Prabhupada gives example of someone going to child go walking in such a way that they're going to fall off the roof, or even an elderly man. Sometimes he says they're flying a kite and they're coming at to the edge of the roof and they may fall off. So it's our business to say that, you're going to fall off, so watch out. And he says that is the sign of human life. He says that not that this man is going to hell, so let him go to hell, but at least I am happy. That is not humane. So Prabhupada's expression, Prabhupada's usage of the word uh, rascal actually demonstrates his humanness, because he's thinking about others. He's not saying, okay, let them do whatever they want and I'll just mind my own business. That's not what Prabhupada is doing. Prabhupada is actually compassionate. What about him? Okay, I'm having a good life. What about him? So that is the nature of a pure devotee, that they are para dukkha dukhi. They think not only about themselves, but they simultaneously think about others. It cannot be separated from this. These are intrinsic characteristics of a pure devotee. They simultaneously think about themselves and about others. It cannot be separated. So that's how we can identify a pure devotee also, that they're always interested not just in how they can attain love of Godhead, or they're also simultaneously interested in how others can also attain the same state of happiness that they are experiencing. Okay, you can go ahead.
Prabhupada, I was a student of economics. There, we learned Marshall's theory. He says that human nature is such that unless a person has obligation, he will not work. That is the beginning of economics. If one already has something sufficient to eat, then he will not work. So if we have sufficient to eat, why shall we work? What's the answer? This is not escaping. It's coming to the light. To not work and yet get our necessities is comfort. But to work hard just to get the bare necessities of life, that is for the hogs and dogs. Devotee. They have no faith or trust that this can be done. Prabhupada. See us, you rascal, see. Open your eyes. See that we have no business. We have no food stock. Still, we are not worried. We do not know what we shall eat in the evening, but still we are not worried. I came to your country without any subsistence. Prabhupada argued that man's economic necessities could be easily settled by keeping cows and land. He said that the men have made an unnecessary complex arrangement just for maintaining the body, thereby forgetting the purpose of human life. When a devotee contended that not everyone had the opportunity to get land, Prabhupada said that this was simply mismanagement. There was plenty of land in America. Devotee Srila Prabhupada, they accuse us of being parasites. Srila Prabhupada, no, a parasite means if he takes others' property and tries to enjoy it. But we are not enjoying others' property. We are enjoying our father's property. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. Krishna is the proprietor. Why do you say parasite? We are good children of Krishna. And Krishna says, don't work. I shall give you everything. Actually, Krishna says that, why are you working so hard? Just surrender to me and I will give you protection. Whatever you want. So we are giving everything. Why say parasite? The devotees were well aware that Srila Prabhupada did work, traveling constantly, managing his worldwide Krishna conscious society, rising in the middle of the night to translate Srimad Bhagavatam. And his disciples also worked hard. but they did not work like animals and animal-like persons for things that would be destroyed in time. And they did not work at horrible enterprises that ruined the best part of human nature. They did not work like asses and claim that they they had no time left in the day to chant the holy name of God. Prabhupada. Now, this is a nice park, but nobody is coming here. We Krishna conscious people, we are taking advantage. So they are escaping or we are escaping. Just see how foolish they are. They work so hard, but they are not taking advantage. But we are taking. So our policy is that you work hard and we go and take from you. That is not escaping. This is intelligence. Srila Prabhupada's example was a delight revelation to the devotees, and they laughed at the obvious truth. Here they were walking so pleasantly with their spiritual master, and yet no one else was coming to enjoy the park. Prabhupada. But as soon as we ask, you also come and join. They will not. They say, no, we shall work like this. We are asking everyone, come here. But they will not come. That is their enviousness. Therefore, they say we are escaping and living at the cost of others. They see that we have got so many cars and the devotees' faces are bright. We are eating nicely and have no problems. But if we ask them to come, then it's very difficult. If we ask them to chant Hare Krishna and dance, oh, it's very big, heavy task for them. As soon as they will come, they will know that there is no tea, no liquor, no meat, no cigarette. So you can say that we are escaping these things, but we are not escaping happiness. They are escaping happiness. When Srila Prabhupada did not have a specific engagement in Denver, a few of his men sometimes gathered in his room. Occasionally, he would provoke some of them into a mock debate with him. Srila Prabhupada, everything must come from something. No one can deny that. Now we give our challenge. Do you know what that absolute truth is? Brahmananda. We know there is an absolute truth, but at this time we cannot directly say what it is. Prabhupada immediately replied that the Krishna conscious version was dogmatic, since there were many truths and many gods, but the absolute truth is one. Srila Prabhupada replied. I think I missed something, Guruji. 1 minute. Okay, Prabhupada immediately replied that if a person admits not knowing the absolute truth, then that person has no grounds for rejecting the Vedic explanation of the absolute. That person cannot deny Krishna is the absolute truth. If you don't know the philosophy, Prabhupada said, then you must agree to hear from an authority who does. Satsarupa. Yes, that argument is logical and we should at least listen to you. But we have heard so many versions of the truth. Why should we accept your version, Prabhupada? That is like saying, I have come across so many counterfeit coins. Why should I think there are real coins? There are counterfeit coins and there must also be genuine coins. It's our misfortune if we are unable to and real coins, distinguish the real coins from the counterfeit coins. Another sannyasi challenged that the Krishna conscious version was dogmatic, since there were many truths and many gods, but the absolute truth is one. Srila Prabhupada replied, because God is one, God has no competitors. If a person does not accept Krishna as God, then he has to present someone who is more fully God than Krishna. But if someone does not know who is God, then that person cannot deny Krishna. If you speak that way, Prabhupada continued, then you are being dogmatic. You do not know what God is. Yet, dogmatically, you are saying that Krishna is not God. Prabhupada compared those who deny the supremacy of Krishna to owls who do not open their eyes to see the sunlight. Such persons demand to see God, but when God comes before them personally or when he sends his pure representative, they will not see. On another morning walk in Denver, Tamala Krishna Goswami told Prabhupada that some of the devotees were reading books about health, diets, and were avoiding the prasadam offered to the deity in the temple. Srila Prabhupada immediately replied that this was not good. Fasting, he acknowledged, was good for health, but the devotees should not become weak. They should take prasadam and do their work. When one of the devotees told Prabhupada he got drowsy after eating heavily of grains and therefore preferred fruit, Prabhupada said that that was all right. Fruit was offered to the deity. When Yadubara said that in Los Angeles, the families often cook in their own homes instead of taking prasadam of the deity. Bhavananda Goswami testified how wonderful it was at the Mayapur festival when hundreds of devotees sat down and took prasadam together. Prabhupada. Yes. What is the difficulty? Chapatis, rice, and they are innocent foods. What is the difficulty? Harikesha. A lot of devotees are quoting you. They say there is no need to eat grains and that you said that grains were for the animals. Prabhupada. But I am eating grains? Harikesha. I tell them that. Prabhupada. They say, Prabhupada says, then you believe that. Prabhupada said that devotees should not listen to health advice if it is resulted in their refusing to honor the Lord's prasadam. Prabhupada, therefore follow taking prasadam. Let whatever may happen. Tamala Krishna. Let us die eating prasadam. Prabhupada. Yes, laughter. That is a devotee. But we must prepare very first class foodstuffs. And then where is the complaint if it is first class? Returning from the walk, Srila Prabhupada continued to discuss the topic in Srimad Bhagavatam class. I was hearing that we are not taking prasadam, especially the grahasthas. No, that is not good. You should take prasadam. Prabhupada described how Bhakti Yoga begins with controlling the tongue by chanting and by eating Krishna prasadam. So in our branches, he continued, all the devotees take prasadam together. That is nice. Why we should not be liking to take prasadam in the temple? What is the fault? No, this is not good. Everyone should take prasadam. It is called prasada seva or service, not prasadam enjoyment. Prasadam means giving service. Prasadam is as good as Krishna and should be respected as good as Krishna. So one must have faith that it is not material. Those who are attached to the Krishna conscious movement and are attached to the service, they should take prasadam, first class prasadam. Everyone likes the taste of prasadam. July 2, 1975. On the plane from Denver to Chicago, Prabhupada scanned a Time magazine essay on crime, a cover story entitled Crime, Why and What to Do. Landing at O'Hare Airport, he was greeted by hundreds of cheering devotees and the press. Your Divine Grace, Sri Govinda, the Chicago Temple President, said, pushing forward. This is Miss John Jones from NBC television. How do you do? Smiled Miss Jones. And several other reporters held microphone before Prabhupada. I would like to know what the occasion is. Why are you visiting Chicago? Just now I have seen an article in Time magazine. Srila Prabhupada replied. He raised his right hand in an instructing gesture and leaned against the cane he held in his left hand. It was 4 or 5 pages. He continued. Crime, why and how to solve it. If you are serious, then you can take our method and suggestions. Then you can stop this crime. You have a way to stop the crime? Oh, yes, I have. Can you explain a little bit more how you do it? Srila Prabhupada nodded. That we have to suggest the social, political, educational, cultural, everything has to be changed. So if you come, we can give you in details how it can be done. Miss Jones dropped the issue and asked Prabhupada how he felt about his welcome. She seemed unnerved by the devotees crowding around to see and hear Srila Prabhupada. By God's grace, Srila Prabhupada said, wherever I go, they welcome me like that. Miss Jones, are you used to anything a bit more serene? Serene? Prabhupada thoroughly considered the word as they all stood together in the midst of the noisy, heavily trafficked airport. Of course, our whole propaganda is serene, he said. Yes, we are distributing God consciousness. It is the most serene movement. People have to learn it very nicely. Thank you, said Miss Jones. She had gotten enough. But Prabhupada added a last word. My message is to stop the crimes of your country. This is my sum and substance. You have read the article in Times Magazine, Crime and How to Stop It. So if you take my advice, that can be stopped. The world is simply full of criminals. Prabhupada continued. Seated in the back seat of the car as they pulled away from the airport's entrance. Crime means papi, sinful. To Srila Prabhupada, it seemed to make no difference that he was sitting in a car with a few disciples and not speaking with the press. If simply by law you want to suppress them, it will not be successful. Deliver them. Then you also come along with them. Not that these criminals only should be delivered, and you will go on continuing with criminal activities, slaughterhouse, and killing the child in the womb. You are criminal yourself, the whole state. Srila Prabhupada was waiting for his message to begin. Sorry, massage to begin. His regular daily schedule was to take a massage at 11:30 a.m. before bathing and taking prasadam. But today, because of his plane travel, his routine was interrupted. Nevertheless, he wanted to follow his general program as far as possible. Upendra was getting mustard oil and the mat for Srila Prabhupada to sit on. So we can solve this, Prabhupada said to the few disciples with him. We not invite them, why not invite them to hear us? How we can solve? We can arrange big meetings on this point. Crime, why and what to do. A very suitable headline it is. Prabhupada continued to develop a Krishna conscious analysis of crime. As long as society violates the laws of nature, he said, there must be crime. He thought it significant that, according to the Time article, the leaders of the country were actually wondering what to do about the increasing crime rate and that they were admitting they didn't know the solution. Now, he said, our business is to give the solution to these leaders if they actually want the welfare of the country. All the problems could be solved by Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada had often said, and now he was eager to tackle the particular problem of crime. America's leaders were admitting their bewilderment and If they were actually sincere, then they might accept the Krishna conscious solution. Prabhupada was keen to preach to the government leaders. Krishna consciousness was meant specially for them. Bhagavad Gita stated that the Rajarshis or saintly kings should disseminate the teachings of the Gita to the citizens. But were the leaders actually serious? Srila Prabhupada wondered. He was serious and he anticipated the special opportunity that might arise here in Chicago to preach to the leaders about ending crime. While sitting with a group of disciples in his room, Srila Prabhupada asked for a particular Bhagavatam verse to be read, and he gave the opening Sanskrit Kamasya Nendriya Pritihi. Harikesha read, a completely bewildered material civilization is wrongly directed toward the fulfillment of desires in sense gratification. In such civilization, in all spheres of life, the ultimate end is sense gratification. In politics, social service, altruism, philanthropy, and ultimately in religion or even in salvation, the very same tint of sense gratification is ever increasingly predominant. In the political field, leaders of men fight with one another to fulfill their personal sense gratification. Srila Prabhupada interrupted. Now in India, this is happening. All these things are foreseen. I have already discussed all this in the purport. Then Harikesha continued reading. The voters adore the so-called leaders only when they promise sense gratification. As soon as the voters are dissatisfied in their own sense satisfaction, they dethrone the leaders. The leaders must always dissatisfy the voters by not satisfying their senses. Again, Prabhupada interrupted. There are protest meetings and processions, but nobody will be able to satisfy them because they do not know how to keep the mass of people satisfied. These rascals, they do not know. I have always said they are rascals. Now they ask what to do. They will force so many problems. What to do?
They
This is the
face, they
big.
will face, Babu.
Sorry.
They will
Okay,
face.
they will face so many problems. What to do? This is the beginning. The whole world will be in chaos if they do not take to Krishna consciousness. So many what to do will come. Just tell them that here is the remedy. Now it is the time for preaching. They are thinking, they are sleeping, but now they are thinking what to do. They are blindly following sense gratification, and now it has come to the stage of what to do. This is the opportunity for preaching. We are the only persons who can give solution. There is no other group or any men in the world. We are only. So let them take advantage of our knowledge and apply. Now all the sannyasis have got the good opportunity to preach. The ISKCON temple was in Chicago suburb
So,
of,
Amati, can you just pause for a
yes,
few minutes?
yes,
Okay. So, Prabhupada has identified a pattern of modern civilization, which is that everyone is perplexed what to do, what to do, what to do. So, he's saying how Krishna consciousness is the solution for every question concerning what to do. So, he explains how um, the laws of nature, the whole material world is an arrangement to the Supreme Lord. There are laws of nature. There are laws of how things work here, and once you start defying those laws, then you get entangled, and when you get entangled, then you begin to ask what to do. So then you have to stop breaking the laws of nature. and you can stop breaking the laws of nature when you get real knowledge. So Krishna consciousness. So Krishna consciousness tells us why we should not break the laws of nature. What is the benefit for us if you do not break the laws of nature? What is the goal of life? And just this morning in the Mayapur temple, we every Ekadashi we have Prabhupada's class. So today's class he was saying that if there is no jnana and there is no vairagya, that is what characterizes a person. That is what characterizes how human beings are different from animals. Animals do not have either jnana or vairagya. So first of all, human being means there should be jnana and vairagya. So, and he explains how the practice of Krishna consciousness brings full knowledge and full vairagya. Uh, of course, you could say that uh, is reading of books separate from uh, practice of bhakti? No. The reading of spiritual literature is also an activity of bhakti. Uh, it is the feature of the Chit Shakti. We are Satchit Ananda. So the reading scripture, especially Srila Prabhupada's books, is a feature of we're getting in touch with the Chit Shakti of the Lord. So when we get in touch with the Chit Shakti of the Lord, then we get illuminated. Our minds get illuminated about what is reality, what is illusion, and we also get free from undue attachment, free from false attachments to this material world. So Prabhupada explains here, we see how persistently Prabhupada is saying the world is simply full of criminals. Criminals means those who have broken the laws of God. That is the meaning of a criminal. So Prabhupada always pitched our movement as an educational movement. We are giving full knowledge, full knowledge. So there's no excuse for anyone. When there is full knowledge, okay, you know what is to be done, what is not to be done. All these sinful activities are due to ignorance. So we are trying to remove ignorance by giving real knowledge. Okay, Mataji, can go ahead.
The ISKCON temple was in the Chicago suburb of Evanston, and on July 4, the day after Prabhupada's arrival, Edgar Veneman Jr., the mayor of Evanston, came to visit Prabhupada in his apartment. Immediately, Prabhupada referred to the Time News article on crime. The remedy, he said, is to train first-class men. He told the mayor briefly of the Vedic society's four natural divisions, pointing out that society had become so degraded that everyone is in the fourth class, the lowest class, and sinking. The only hope was to train some first class and second class men. We certainly need a new approach, admitted Mr. Venman, because we are not being successful now. After less than an hour's conversation, Srila Prabhupada was ready to make
After less than
a,
half an hour. After less than half an hour.
okay, sorry, Prabhu. After less than half an hour conversation, Srila Prabhupada was ready to make a bold request. Previously, Jagadisha, the GBC secretary for Chicago, had mentioned that a very large municipality owned building across the street was vacant. Srila Prabhupada decided to ask the mayor to donate it. Already he had explained to the mayor that Krishna consciousness could stop crime and drug addicts, and he now asked Harid Kesha to read a letter by Dr. Stilson Judab, author of Hare Krishna and the Counterculture. In the letter, Dr. Juda appreciated Krishna consciousness for transforming lives from drug addicted hippies to loving servants of Krishna and humanity. So we can stop this provided we are given the facility to work on, said Prabhupada. When the mayor replied as Srila Prabhupada made his request. So I was thinking, Prabhupada said, just in front of here, there is a very nice house, very wood, a big house. You have knowledge about this house? The mayor replied that this building was to be the new city hall for Evanston. Srila Prabhupada had not been told about this, and he hesitated while the mayor spoke of how the city's officers scattered and so long in 9 different locations would now all be together in this one building. But this is more important, Prabhupada said. City service is going on, but criminals are increasing. So why not give us a little opportunity? Mayor Wenman explained politely that he would have to talk with the city manager, tactfully excusing himself from commitment. If we get a good place, Prabhupada continued, with the cooperations of the authorities, then our simple program is, as Professor Judah had remarked, to turn drug addicted hippies into devotees. We shall invite everyone to come and chant Hare Krishna mantra and take prasadam. I began this movement in New York alone, and these boys gradually came to me. But my process was this, chanting and giving them prasadam. Everyone will be glad to accept it. They will read these books. These devotees here are practical examples. I am a poor Indian. I did not bribe them, neither have I in any money. Prabhupada laughed. So now they have dedicated their lives for the purpose. So I want to do it on a large scale. But there were practical alternatives. Perhaps Prabhupada suggested the Krishna consciousness movement could use part of the building for a year. He continued describing the efficacy of Krishna consciousness. But the mayor had little else to say. Little else to say. Prabhupada had prasadam brought in and asked his guest if he had any further inquiry. No, I really don't think so, Mayor Wenman replied. But I think I would like to learn more about your movement, and I have enjoyed talking and listening to you, and I appreciate it. After the mayor left, one of the Prabhupada's disciples questioned why they would want such a big building. The Chicago temple was large and not at all crowded. My idea is, Prabhupada said, I want to draw the attention of the authorities. If they cooperate, then we can push on our movement more vigorously. But with our present location here, we cannot, a devotee asked. We are doing it on a small scale, Prabhupada explained. It is going on, but if we get support from the authorities, we can push on in a larger scale. Lieutenant David Mosey, public relations representative of the Chicago Police Department, was interested in Srila Prabhupada's ideas for stopping crime, and Srila Prabhupada offered his simple proposal. The government should give ISKCON a large building where the devotees could regularly hold mass kirtana and distribute prasadam, and gradually people would become purified. Lieutenant Mosey, like Mayor Wenman, was respectful and interested. Unless you clean the heart, Srila Prabhupada said, you cannot stop criminality simply by laws. The laws are already known by thief and murderer, but still they commit because the heart is unclean. And our process is to cleanse the heart. A very difficult task, sir, the Lieutenant Morsi. Prabhupada replied that if it wasn't It wasn't difficult. He was already doing it on a small scale. They are faced with the problems, why crime and what to do, he said, and we are giving the answer. So you take advantage of it. Why crime? We are saying because they are godless. And what to do? Chant Hare Krishna and take prasadam. Now, if you like, you can take. Otherwise, we are doing our own business. Just like a poor medical man, he is also giving medicine. But if he is given facility, he can open a big hospital. That is our proposition. We are already doing that business. But if we get facility from the authorities, then we can open a big place, a big hospital, and the problem is already big. Otherwise, why are they saying what to do? Illinois State Assemblyman John Porter, who came with his wife, also asked about the solution to crime, but he had a more direct personal interest in spiritual life. Was it possible, he asked, to make spiritual advancement without living in the temple? Srila Prabhupada told him yes. If he chanted Hare Krishna, which he could do anywhere, and he should read the standard books on of the Krishna consciousness movement. Mr. Porter also inquired about the Krishna conscious understanding of certain Christian theological points, such as original sin and salvation. Srila Prabhupada, however, did not indulge in discussing theoretical or comparative religion, but em- emphasized the necessity of strictly following the instruction given by God or his representative. The main business, Prabhupada said, is to understand God. Mr. Porter seemed unlikely to help the devotees get a large building, but he had inquired humbly about spiritual life. Prabhupada's unstinting deliver, deliverance of Krishna consciousness was not conditional. If anyone sincerely inquired, be he assemblyman or criminal, Srila Prabhupada was always eager to give him the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada's Chicago visit included several important functions at the temple. The Malakrishna Goswami and Vishnujana Swami had come to Chicago to see Srila Prabhupada to recommend for initiation 75 new men who had joined their Radha Damodara traveling Sankirtan party. And at the end of the week, Prabhupada would be attending a Rathayatra procession in downtown Chicago. Each morning, he lectured in the large hall at the Evanston Temple before several hundred devotees, speaking about life of Ajamila. Each day, he would tell more of the history of the sinner Ajamila, who was saved at the time of death by calling out the name of God Narayana. On the fourth morning, Prabhupada was explaining how Ajamila had named one of his sons Narayana. So, the idea is that by God's grace, in the beginning of the life, Ajamila engaged himself to be Krishna conscious and was initiated. Then, years later, Krishna gave him the advice, all right, you keep the youngest son's name Narayana because you will be naturally attached to this body and you will call him Narayana, Narayana. Please come here. Narayana, take your food. Narayana, take your drink. So you will chant Narayana. Srila Prabhupada suddenly became stunned, unable to speak. Such a thing had happened before, but rarely. He remained in trance while a pregnant silence held in the room. The devotees could see that Prabhupada was experiencing a powerful spiritual emotion. Many of them felt that when he had called out Narayana, he had become he had become face to face with Narayana. He was seeing Krishna, who was showing how very pleased he was with his pure devotee. Surely, Krishna was very pleased with Prabhupada, and although Prabhupada was fully engaged with the details of his movement within the material world, Krishna was with him, giving him assurance from the spiritual world. For the devotees, this moment confirmed the existence of the spiritual world and confirmed that Prabhupada belonged to that world and was only visiting the material world to give Krishna consciousness. Most of the devotees were neophytes, still attached to the material and having vision of the spiritual. But now they could see the spiritual world through Srila Prabhupada's ecstatic trance. After about a minute, Srila Prabhupada returned to the external consciousness. All right, he said, and then with the same word he used to end all the lectures, he said, "Thank you very much." Then devotees began a rousing melodic kirtana. It had been a special moment and they kept it in their hearts. Srila Prabhupada held a press conference at the Sheraton, Chicago, and the turnout by TV and the press was good. Sitting on a cushion on a platform surrounded by his sannyasis, Prabhupada lectured to a group of media people who sat patiently. He introduced this topic as talking about the spiritual existence of the living being and described the unavoidable miseries of material world and how to transcend them by learning to love God and thus return to the eternal spiritual world. Those persons endeavoring to attain this spiritual goal are first class men, he said, and he described the four natural social divisions. On concluding, he called for questions. A reporter challenged that the four divisions of society were contrary to everything in American tradition. But Srila Prabhupada replied that only training was required. America was training doctors, engineers, lawyers, and America could train some first class men. Woman reporter. Where do women fit into this social structure? You keep referring to a man. Prabhupada replied that a woman was a man's other half, or her husband, her husband, sorry, Prabhu. Prabhupada replied that a woman was a man's, her husband's assistant. If a woman was faithful to a first class man, a Brahmana, then she also become first class. If she was married to a second class man, a Kshatriya, then she would be considered second class. If she was married to a third class man, a Vaishya, then she was third class. According to the status of her husband, she became first, second, third, or fourth. Woman reporter. You mean she is not qualified as first, second, or third class until she is married? Srila Prabhupada. Yes, a woman requires protection. In childhood, she should be protected by the father, in youth by husband, and in old age by the elderly sons. The same the same reporter asked if Prabhupada thought Indira Gandhi was having political trouble because she was a woman and therefore incapable. Why are you trying to put me in the emergency law? Prabhupada laughed. He then quoted Chanakya Pandita, never trust a woman or a politician. Prabhupada had created a sensation, and within a few hours, Chicago's radio and TV stations were talking of the news conference, concentrating almost entirely on his comments about women. A woman alderman scheduled to visit Prabhupada phoned to say that she was cancelling because of Srila Prabhupada's expressed attitudes towards women. A TV station phoned and requested to come over that evening to do an interview. While the Chicago news reporters wrote their stories for the evening and morning editions, Prabhupada's comments were further picked up by United Press International and Associated Press wire services. Srila Prabhupada had wanted to reach the public with his Krishna conscious message, and therefore he had arrived in Chicago with the specific idea of broadcasting his solution to crime. But now he had hit on a topic that was attracting far more attention. He had had the boldness to assert, in the midst of America's predominant mood of women's liberation, women's real place in society. The devotees were excited by the controversy and were eager to understand the Krishna conscious philosophy more deeply and to present it exactly. They complained that none of the reporters had delved deeply or allowed Prabhupada to express his ideas of spiritual equality. Yet, when Prabhupada heard that evening that he had touched off so much media response, he was amused. He was ready to tell them more. Why only the women should become pregnant, he said, reflecting his point, reiterating his point before the small group of devotees in his room. The man goes away and she has to take care of the children and beg from the government. Is that independence? Devotee. Then the independence has become contraception. They say, I do not want to have, I do not want to. Prabhuji, can anybody get continue, Prabhuji, because I'm having a little difficulty in my throat. Sorry, Prabhuji.
Sure, okay. Anyone would like to continue, or I'll read it myself? Okay. They complained that, I'll just read from there. They complained that none of the reporters had delved deeply or allowed Prabhupada to express his ideas of spiritual equality. Yet when Prabhupada heard that evening that he had touched off so much media response, he was amused. He was ready to tell them more. Why only the woman should become pregnant, he said, reiterating his point before the small group of devotees in his room. The man goes away and she has to take care of the children and beg from the government. Is that independence? Devotee. Then the independence has become contraception. They say, I do not want to have the child. Prabhupada. That means you commit another sinful activity. You will be punished. Devotee. Srila Prabhupada, the whole civilization, American Western civilization, is now bewildered by this theory of women's liberation. Prabhupada. But how will they be liberated? On this point, first of all, let me know. Anyway, I am not speaking of my experience. When we speak from Shastra. Women's dependence is described in Manu Samhita, just like Queen Kunti. She is not an ordinary woman. She was learned and exalted. Brahmananda Swami. This is one point. In our devotional line, there are spiritual leaders who have been women, such as Kunti, Prabhupada. Therefore, I say that Kunti remained dependent on her sons. That is my proposition. Her sons were banished, but when they went to the forest, she followed, because she thought, I am a widow, I am dependent on my sons. So wherever they remain, I shall remain. Similarly, Sita, the wife of Lord Ramachandra. Lord Ramachandra was requested by his father to go to the forest, not Sita, but she preferred to go with her husband. When her husband said, "You are not banished, you stay at home," she said, "No, I am dependent on you. Wherever you shall go, I must go." This is Vedic culture. Devotee. Her chastity was a great virtue. But nowadays, that is no longer true. Prabhupada. Nowadays may be different, but I'm speaking the Vedic idea. That's all. In all circumstances, unless her husband is crazy or something like that, mad, in every case, the wife is faithful and subservient to the husband. Even the husband goes out of home, vanaprastha, the wife also goes with him. When he takes sannyas, at that time there is no accompanying of wife. Otherwise, in grihastha life and even vanaprastha life, the wife is the constant companion and subservient. Gandhari, her husband, was blind. So when the marriage settlement was done, she was not blind. She voluntarily became blind by wrapping cloth over her eyes. There are instances in the Vedic literature. The wife remains always faithful and subservient to the husband. That is her perfection. The Americans may not like this idea, but that is a different thing. A five-person TV crew arrived at Prabhupada's apartment, four women and a male assistant. Obviously, they were making a point. While the crew set up their lights and equipment, Prabhupada sat serenely behind his low desk, a few of the disciples sitting before him on the floor. The interviewer first asked Prabhupada about the solutions to America's problems. Comparing society to the human body, Prabhupada replied that while all parts of the body were important, the head was the most important. Without a properly functioning head, the person or society was mad. There was need, therefore, for training first-class men. Where do women fit into these four classes? The newswoman asked. Srila Prabhupada duly repeated that woman, being subordinate to man, had her position according to the position of her husband. And so it went. The questions were challenges. Do you think I'm inferior to you? The interviewer is out to make Prabhupada appear prejudiced, but he spoke only pure philosophy. Spiritually, they are all one, Prabhupada said. Yet he emphasized a distinction materially between man and woman. For example, he said, women can bear children, but the man cannot. Is it possible for the man to become pregnant? Interviewer, what happens when women are not subordinate to men? Prabhupada, then there is disruption, social disruption. Therefore, in the Western countries, there are so many divorce cases because the woman does not agree to become subordinate to man. Interviewer, what advice do you have to give to women who do not want to be subordinate to men? Prabhupada, it is not my advice, but it is the advice of the Vedic knowledge that women should be chaste and faithful to man. Srila Prabhupada returned to the point that women bear children, but men cannot. By nature's way, he said, as soon as you get children, you require support from the husband. Otherwise, you are in difficulty. Interviewer, many women have children and have no support from their husbands. They have no support, they have no husband. Prabhupada, then they have to take support from others. You cannot deny that. The government is giving you support, but the government is embarrassed. If the husband supports the wife and children, the government is relieved of so much welfare contribution. So that is the problem. Man and woman unite. The woman becomes pregnant and the husband goes away. Then the poor woman is embarrassed with the child. She has to beg from the government. So do you think it is a very nice thing? The Vedic idea is that woman should be married to a man and the man should take charge of the woman and the children so that they do not become a burden to the government or the public. Interviewer, what about women who do not have children? Prabhupada, well, that is another unnatural thing. Sometimes they use contraceptives. They kill children. Abortion. That is also not very good. These are all sinful activities. One has to suffer for them. It was a heated interview. The feminist interviewer set on disparaging Prabhupada for his outrageous remarks, yet he remained strong and uncompromising, arguing in such a way as to point out many anomalies of materialistic civilization. Prabhupada didn't discriminate against women as a class and in fact gave women in this Krishna consciousness movement the same opportunity as men. Although the reporter misunderstood him, labeling him as a male chauvinist, actually he was compassionate. According to the Vedic view, women should be protected from exploitative men. Prabhupada is aware that his words were not being appreciated, but he continued, hopeful that the truth would prevail and that intelligent people would understand. The important point was liberation, not temporary social or sexist stances. After the TV crew left, Prabhupada continued the discussion. He said that their becoming angry showed their defeat. They were unwilling to accept logic. Prabhupada, this women's liberation is not successful. It has caused disaster. When the women become dependent on the welfare gift of the government, then the government has to raise taxes heavily for this purpose. If they think it is not a problem, then what can be said? By nature's way, if the husband takes care of the wife and children, this problem is solved immediately. But the man takes advantage and goes away after making the woman pregnant. And the woman is embarrassed, and the government is embarrassed. Devotee, and the child grows up to be a criminal. Prabhupada, yes, that is another problem. So they are not far seeing. Therefore, we have to take advice from Krishna. We are spreading this knowledge that you take your counsel from Krishna, then you will be happy. Satswarupa. Srila Prabhupada, if we speak these things on television and the newspapers and people become angry, if all of the people become angry, just like she did, is it still good propaganda for us? Prabhupada, no. Then we chant Hare Krishna. But in the Bhagavad Gita, everything is discussed. Varna Shankara and the first class man, the second class man. If we have to push on the Krishna consciousness movement, then we have to discuss. But if they do not like, better to chant Hare Krishna. Don't discuss anything. If you're not agreeable to hear from Bhagavad Gita, then let us chant together Hare Krishna. That's all. But these things are discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. There it is said that when there is unwanted population and it is increased, then it becomes hell. So if you want to increase the hellish persons, then don't discuss. But if you think it is a problem, then discuss. Satsurupa. As Brahmanas, we have to be truthful. In Hong Kong, they asked you what you thought of that guru who says is God. You said you cannot help yourself and you spoke out. Prabhupada, yes, I said he's a great cheat. What can I say? And now it has been proven. As I said in my book, Easy Journey to Other Planets, this moon excursion is childish. And that has also been proven now. Now they don't talk about the moon excursion because they are a failure. Okay, so I'll stop there. Prabhupada's words are self-explanatory. He explains it comprehensively from all angles of vision. Devotees ask different questions, and Prabhupada he's explaining his viewpoint that is not from his experience. He's simply repeating the Vedic teachings. Any thoughts, reflections, questions?
Prabhuji, I want to say just this one, Prabhuji, because not this part, whatever the interview or this one, this is about little bit previous one topic, Prabhuji. There was one thing that people were saying that you are parasites or you are not working hard like that on that system. Because I have one of my friends where we studied together. She asked me that how much time you spend for chanting and all. I said it takes about 2 hours. She said, okay. Then she asked, because I have a daughter, she asked, your daughter is also chanting. I said, yes, she's also chanting. Oh, then she's wasting 2 hours of her daily morning time, she was telling me. I didn't know, means I knew how to answer, but I didn't answer because she won't understand like what is the real benefit we are doing, because she's really she works very hard and she has accumulated so much riches, but the thing is that she, even that material life she's not able to enjoy because she's having so much of diseases, difficulties in her personal like in body. So she's not eating also properly or all these things. So just I wanted to tell how foolish they are about these things.
Prabhupada said that the sign that we are not lazy is that we get up in the morning, early morning. Doesn't matter whether it is cold, whether it is warm, whether it is hot. At all times, we wake up early. We have got a very busy life, So people read newspapers for a lot of time. People browse the internet. People scroll. People watch movies. People do different things. So easily 2 hours in a day they spend on these things. So we are spending 2 hours on doing something which is not only what we like, but also helps us to be better human beings. Because we're developing love for God, we develop love for humanity. And by developing love for humanity, we are working for their welfare. So the activity of chanting is meant to awaken our love of God, which also awakens our love for humanity, because humanity, all humans are parts and parts of God. Why humanity? Entire living entities, the whole gamut of living entities. So we awaken our love towards all of them. So these days it is not very difficult because people do yoga and meditation and things like that. So we can always say that these practices help one to lead a better life and help others lead a better life.
Yes.
It's not a waste of time.
Yeah, they don't know this importance of chanting or anything. They don't know about the importance of chanting or anything like that. They think that it's a waste of time for 2 hours, because especially for my daughter, she's telling she can do so many productive things in those 2 hours.
You can explain to them how it's the most productive to chant.
Yeah, but I didn't do that one because she's like not atheist, but she's having so much of misconceptions. Even if explaining, she won't understand it. She doesn't understand the importance of chanting or doing devotional activities. She says that that is for the old people and all, and my daughter should not do that one now at this age like that.
No, I think these are ABCDs. So you know
Yes.
the philosophy, so you can explain it very clearly.
Okay.
Why chanting is important.
Yes, okay, bro. Next time I will do that.
So, like for example, she may think it is very simple, repetitive process, but yeah, the power of sound is very strong. People perform surgeries using ultrasound. It's a sound. So she may think it is just some ordinary thing, but mantra means that which liberates the mind. So it performs a surgery of your mind every day. Perform surgery on your mind every day. So, I mean, it is a common known fact that people in this world who accomplished even materially, forget about spiritual, material things, people have accomplished. Those who have had strength of mind. So even from a materialistic perspective, it is not wasting time. So it is a surgery of the mind. Of course, we do it for the sake of hearing the Bhagavatam with rapt attention, or performing a devotional service with rapt attention. But nevertheless, it has got a significant. I mean, why we are doing it is different. But what is the effect that it produces on the mind by chanting? Chanting liberates the mind. Maha Mantra means that which liberates the mind from its misconceptions, from its it changes. See, the function of the mind are thinking, feeling, willing. Okay, so it reorients this thinking, feeling, willing of the mind. So we are reorienting the mind every day. There are different things you can say. I'm just saying, this is just some.
Yes. Okay.
Which you already know.
Yes. Okay.
Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
After a very long time. Prabhu, I have a question which is not pertinent to today's class, but this is something which I was thinking that I wanted to ask you. See, my niece is studying in a in a college where she does research, and that research is done on rats. Okay, this rat. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
I can hear you. Your niece is studying in a college which does research on rats.
Exactly. Now, what they do is they have an original rat, and they don't use that rat. Say they clone using stem cells from the rat, and create rats through an incubator. Okay, so the original rat is always alive. Using stem cells, they create a rat in an incubator in a machine, and in that they do the experiment. So even if the rat dies, they take another stem cell and again create life. So I was kind of surprised while we heard of this cloning in 80s or 90s, and then it's illegal, it's prohibited. But they're using for this research on this rat. Now, how does this? I was wondering how is this cloned rat will have all the same qualities of this original rat. Now, how from a spiritual point of view, how does this karma affect karma really act? Because what I understand is the same rat, everything is the same. Even the behavior.
Everything is not the same. Everything is not the same because
it is not coming from a womb, Prabhu.
So what? I mean, like, it's not. See, what do you call it? Prabhupada said that what do you call it? They have test tube babies, right? So Prabhupada said, okay, so what is the big deal? You have the womb is a nature's test tube. That's all. So like that, Prabhupada's challenge was you produce life from chemicals, which cannot be done. Okay, so they need living entities to produce life. So they're manipulating. It is combination of chemicals. Like, hold on, it's a combination of chemicals only which produce life anyway, right? It's not like but the soul has to enter. But there's a certain combination of chemicals which produce life. That's all. So they're trying to simulate that combination.
Actually, Prabhupada told that the soul is there in the semen. When the semen enters the womb of the female.
Okay.
That's how the soul develops, right? So where does the soul comes here in a test tube? Does it come?
No. That's a general process. That's a general process. It is not that the birth has to take place only like that. No. But Prabhupada's point was that birth requires a biological entity. This is all that Prabhupada's point was. But this is how, you see, in Vedic knowledge, there are always exceptions. For example, you know how Gandhari conceived of that 100 sons, right? When she heard she was pregnant and whatever, you heard all that. I won't get into the story, but she broke her embryo into 100 pieces. That's how 100 souls entered there. So that's the point, that there is something called conventional understanding of how birth happens, but there are also unconventional ways in which can it happen. But whether it's conventional or unconventional, you need living entity. You only a living entity you can't take chemicals and create it. You need to draw something from living entities to be able to produce life.
Because another thing which I heard is actually how does the soul enter is from the rain. When it comes, it goes through the grains. Through the grains, when men or animals or whatever eat, that's how the soul gets into. This is what I heard.
No, that's scary, but that is as we study in biology. There is sexual reproduction. There are asexual reproduction also. So this is just, I don't know how to put it. This is just the standard method which is commonly known. That's all. But there are varieties of ways in which living beings replicate. So the most standard way in which living beings replicate is or reproduce is mentioned. That's all. That does not mean there are no other ways in which it happens. It happens. But in all cases, you need a living entity to produce another living entity.
Fine.
That is the point.
So how is then karma, Prabhu? So this is totally a different life, because this is
No,
all
animals
from the
don't have
same
karma.
origin.
Animals don't have. First of all, animals don't have karma. So it's not that.
No, I'm talking about, what if it is a clone, a human from an incubator? It's all the same person's stem cells, so it's a totally different karma. That's how it would come.
Yeah, just like twins, no, they appear the same, but they are different people. Each soul is an individual entity. So physical characteristics may be same, but so what? Their karmas are different, so their activities will be different. They can't clone the activities of a person for sure. They can only clone the physical characteristics.
Yeah, that's right.
Physical
Anyway,
characteristics
this
can be
was
cloned.
something. Okay, Prabhu. Anyway, thanks, Prabhu. I was just thinking, and I thought this is the right platform to ask you. Thanks, Prabhu.
Correction.
Prabhu, also, I just wanted to mention, I don't know if these videos are quite some time in the YouTube, maybe in quite some. So, various devotees of Prabhupada, like Satsvarupa, Brahmananda, Sutakirti, they have the memories of Srila Prabhupada. So, they were giving their experiences of how during those times they were with Prabhupada. So, that is something which is amazing to hear, Prabhu. I mean, you literally go live into when they talk about Prabhupada. So, it's just now I'm hearing for the past 3-4 months. So, it is very interesting to hear, Prabhu.
You are hearing the memory series, or are you hearing the Yadubara Prabhu's? You're watching that one?
No, Srila Prabhupada memories.
Okay, that must be Siddhanta Prabhu, I think, right?
I don't know who, but various disciples of Prabhupada are giving this. Prabhu.
Yeah. No, are you watching the one produced by Yadubara Prabhu in chronological order?
Not really, Prabhu. Not really.
Okay. That is a series of 12 tapes in chronological order from the beginning of ISKCON till Prabhupada's disappearance, even before beginning of ISKCON. It's called
Sorry,
Following Srila Prabhupada.
You can repeat the name,
sorry,
Prabhu,
11.
Yadu?
It's not 12. It's 11. It's called Following Srila Prabhupada.
Okay, Prabhu. What is that? Yadu?
Yadubara Prabhu. Yadubara Das.
Okay. Prabhu.
It's called
I'll
Following
try.
Srila Prabhupada. It is 11, say not 12, 11 actually, chronologically.
Sure, Prabhu. And today, one of the Prabhupada's disciples gave me a USB containing various interactions between Prabhupada and his disciples, a collection around the 158 series or something. So that also should be interesting, just on the classes.
One thing that I just wanted to make a point is that we are studying Lilamrita now. I think I made this at the beginning of the Lilamrita sessions, that we have to look at Srila Prabhupada through his books. We can't look at his books through his what do you call it? Through his pastimes, because the living Bhagavata is a manifestation of the book Bhagavata. That's very important. So Prabhupada is exemplifying his teachings. So everything that Prabhupada does can be traced back to his teachings. So Prabhupada himself emphasized this at one point when they wanted to publish his letters and all these things. So then Prabhupada said, there's no need of doing it. Everything that I've wanted to say is in my books. And he also said that if people just take what I spoke and what I did, and then they will not understand my teachings properly. In the sense that, first of all, the teachings are the basis. And all these things that Prabhupada did are manifestations of his teachings. So his life has to be seen through his teachings, not that his teachings have to be seen through his life. I hope that I made the distinction clear.
Yes, bro. I mean, one thing, yes, you rightly said about the teaching, and another thing is, it's good to know how Prabhupada really interacted with all the disciples. So it's
Oh yes.
that's
Yeah.
experience I'm getting when hearing all this. That's it.
No, because why I said this was because sometimes I've seen, not sometimes, it's quite often that devotees use a pastime of Srila Prabhupada to overturn something that he has mentioned in his books. Like for example, saying that Prabhupada permitted divorces. It's not like okay, he permitted it. So, but is that his teaching? And in what circumstances did he permit? Why did he permit? Those things have to be studied properly. Otherwise, one can come up with all these kind of weird conclusions. The Prabhupada permitted divorce and so many other things. I'm just giving one example. That's why it's important to study the teachings properly.
True, bro. Thanks, bro. Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, just a point, since you brought it up. It's not directed towards you, but I'm just making a point in general. Who else would like to say something or share something? Okay. So it looks like there's no one else who wants to say something. So we'll stop here for today and we'll resume again next Sunday. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyev cha Paritanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.